Hello, I'm Milton Curry, Dean of the USC School of Architecture and the Della and Harry McDonald Dean's Chair in Architecture. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the USC Architectural Guild Honoree Spotlight, the conclusion of a two-part series recognizing the contributions of the industry's best. This series is a lead-up to the culmination and celebration on Tuesday, December 8th, in a virtual 61st annual USC Architectural Guild Awards program. Please plan to attend on December 8th. Love to see you there. The awards will be hosted by journalist, author, and TV personality Lisa Ling, with special guest and featured speaker, artist and architect Amanda Williams. Today, in a double feature interview, we'll hear first from the recipient of the Distinguished Business Leadership Award, Wayne Ratkovich, President and CEO of the Ratkovich Company. In being selected to receive the award, we recognize Wayne's entrepreneurial spirit and success in creating and leading the Ratkovich Company. From historic preservation to adaptive reuse and repurposing to adopting a mission for sustainable practices, the Ratkovich Company has become a visionary force in the last 40 years. It's no wonder Wayne is a ULI Urban Land Institute trustee, life trustee, an honor given to only 13 members in the 75-year history of the 35,000 member organization. The community of architects, builders, developers, artists, and designers celebrate your groundbreaking contributions to Southern California and urbanism, revolutionizing site and place and space for the better. Interviewing Wayne this evening is Ronald Altoon, alumnus of USC Architecture and the first scholar in residence at the Gamble House. Ronald has always given back to his alma mater, having been engaged with the school through 6 deans, including his past leadership service on our own board of counselors, along with past participation in the USC Alumni Association Board of Governors. Please welcome Ronald Altoon and Business Leadership Honoree Wayne Ratkovich. Ron, I think you're on mute.
Well, let's start again. Thank you, Dean Curry. It's an honor to be a part of this program and to be here with the USC School of Architecture. Wayne Ratkovich and I are longtime colleagues and friends. And Wayne, I'm thrilled to be speaking with you in this capacity, and congratulations on receiving the USC School of Architecture Architectural Guild Business Leadership Award. Wayne, it's clear that you're a successful and tactful entrepreneur. Tell us about your journey to become a developer and what the landscape of architecture was like at the time you began and how it shaped your career.
Well, thank you, Ron. And I want to start by, let's see. All right, we'll get this going the right way. There we are. I want to start by thanking you for your patience with me, and Dean Curry for his very kind words, and for the honor that this is so meaningful to me to receive. Without going into ancient history, Ron, in answer to your question, in 1977, as a young developer, I bought a building in downtown Los Angeles called the Oviatt Building. It was purely a property that I purchased because it was inexpensive. It was a 100,000 square foot building, and the price was about $500,000, $5 a square foot. The building that had been built in 1928, and it had been inherited by the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. The advisor of the Archdiocese said it's a building to be torn down and it's valued as a parking lot. Well, we saw that a little differently. We saw some opportunities with the building and a little bit of a rising market in downtown Los Angeles. So I stepped in and said, this is the first project for my new company, and let's give it a try. And I was successful in raising enough money to buy the building and to rehab it. Prior to that time, I had been mostly an industrial real estate developer, not thinking too much about the city, not thinking too much about architecture. That all changed with the Oviatt building. I discovered a great deal about the Oviatt building, its history and its architecture, and I saw the opportunity that was there. It sure seemed that way to me. And so we made a go at it. Unfortunately, we were successful with the building. And that transformed my interest as a real estate developer. I moved far away from industrial real estate, and I moved into the city. And I was taken by the city, and I saw an opportunity for our firm to focus on urban development. Changed the mission statement of my company. It became to profitably produce developments that improve the quality of urban life. That is our message, and that's what that building set me on, and we've stayed with it pretty much ever since. I will also tell you one other thought about that. We had a very nice restaurant in the Oviatt building, and one evening I hosted a dinner with James Rouse, the developer from Baltimore, Maryland. I think it was just a few days after we had dinner that Jim Rouse's picture appeared on the cover of Time magazine for his work in Boston with Faneuil Hall, for his work in Baltimore with the Inner Harbor, the city of Columbia. And as you probably know, he went on to be given the Medal of Freedom by President Clinton. Well, when I read the Time magazine article about Jim Rouse, I was struck by a quotation in which he said, "The only legitimate city is to provide for the life and the growth of its citizens." And so that really set me on a course of urban development, and that's where I've stayed ever since.
Great. You know, Wayne, you first came to my attention as a developer who seemingly out of the blue chose to take on the challenge of saving, conserving, and repurposing some of our most important historic structures. You named a couple of them. The challenges are complex, as I know from my own experience in designing the conversion of the Art Deco Bullock-Wilshire department store into a law school. But I'd like to know, what was your altruistic urge that caused you to take on the Oviatt building, the Chapman Market, and the Wiltern Center Theater building by Morgan Walls and Clements? You must know that the entire city owes you a debt of gratitude for saving these historic structures.
Well, I owe the city a debt of gratitude. And by the way, I can't say this strongly enough. I owe a debt of gratitude to the architects that helped us make those projects work. I didn't know much about architecture, and frankly, was a raw beginner. But the first architect that I hired was a lady named Brenda Levin. I don't think Brenda had even gotten her license in California yet, but that was the beginning of a series of buildings that Brenda and I became identified with, because we discovered this notion about historic buildings. And just as a developer, I was taken by the fact that when we put up the for lease sign at the Oviatt building, we were stunned by how much interest there was in a historic building in Los Angeles. Prior to that time, as you know, Ron, historic buildings were simply destroyed in Los Angeles. So it opened up a whole new opportunity for us. And in terms of doing that, we're gratified that we had the opportunity. We learned a lot. And one of the things that has always been challenging with historic preservation and repurposing buildings is cost. It's very difficult to determine what the cost is going to be. So we've learned to provide very ample contingency funds that cover the things that we missed the first time around.
Well, you know, it's like opening Pandora's box.
Yes, it
You never
is.
know what you're going to get, but it's a great run. But from reinventing the Wiltern Theater building to the adaptive reuse of Howard Hughes Aircraft Campus, the Hercules and Playa Vista as creative workplaces. Could you share a bit about your company's vision? How has this influenced the direction you're going?
Well, what had transpired at Playa Vista through all of the decades, literally, of the settlement process was that 11 buildings that were part of the historic Hughes Aircraft Company headquarters, including the building in which the Spruce Goose was constructed, were left by other developers. They weren't interested in buying 28.5 acres of land and 550,000 square feet of buildings that were historic. And they were sort of out of sync. They weren't conventional office buildings. They weren't conventional anything. But we saw a rising market in so-called creative office space and on the west side of town. And so we went to work on it, and we were successful in raising the capital to buy it. And we again turned to architects to help us figure out what to do with it. We had some odd challenges. The Spruce Goose building, the hangar as we called it, was 700 feet long, 200 feet wide, and 72 feet high. And what in the world are we going to do with that? Well, we turned to Brenda, we turned to Greg Lynn for some help on how to create a building within a building. And to our good fortune, Google came along and looked at our property. They liked what they saw, and today they occupy almost all of it.
If they hadn't come along, it could have been the new Rams Stadium. So the Ratkovich Company is currently working on large-scale projects, mixed-use projects, including the West Harbor redevelopment of the 42-acre waterfront site at the old Ports of Call location, becoming a world-class mixed-use dining, recreation, entertainment destination. And you're also in the final stages of entitling the residential part of the Alhambra. But tell us what you've learned about your work, which often straddles multiple stakeholders, multiple product types, and ultimately impacts communities. What's the takeaway from that?
Well, I think, Ron, the short answer is we wanted to be welcomed in the cities that we went into. And when we had that welcome, that was the place that we wanted to serve the city and do the right thing and make money at the same time. We charted ourselves with a goal of being an example of capitalism in its most admirable form, the do well, do good approach. And we stuck by it, and we still stick by it. And I think if we are going to do, as Ralph said, look at our work as part of creating great cities, then generally speaking, we're going to be welcome. And what we ask for, so long as it's within reason and we have a good architect to design it for us, we usually get our approvals and get our way. We've had exactly that experience in the city of Alhambra with a 1 million square foot office campus, and our effort now to get the entitlement for residential to build a real community. We've had a wonderful experience with the city of Los Angeles with the West Harbor that gives us a chance to take 42 acres of land on the waterfront of the San Pedro Harbor, and has almost a mile of waterfront. So we have an opportunity to create something very special for the city of Los Angeles. And I think so long as we head in that direction, the city and the Port of Los Angeles have been terrific to work with. We've had the full cooperation of the councilman and the port. So I think we just are saying, let's do it the easy way. Let's not fight every battle we can come across.
Well, I know you're a fighter, Wayne. I mean, you've taken on projects that seemed impossible to do. I mean, certainly the 3 historic projects that we've talked about were challenging projects, and the Ports of Call location has always been a bit anemic. So I admire your courage for taking that on and looking very optimistically towards a positive outcome there.
Well, thank you, Ron. Some folks have described it a little differently than courageous, but that's part of the game we play.
Well, you put the Hercules project in the same category. Look what happened there. So your projects include a mix of new developments and also adaptive reuse. And we know that in adaptive reuse projects, less building materials are needed, more embedded carbon that is being reused, meaning lower investment costs, more room to focus on restoration and sustainability issues, revitalization. Could you share more about your approach to adaptive reuse development and what some of the most challenging works were for you?
That's a big question, Ron. I think part of it, the answer is that we simply approach these projects seeking solutions, not problems. And we do it with some background and some experience now gathered over the 40 years that we've been doing it. But we simply want to do the right thing. And when we do the right thing, it works out economically and it works out to the benefit of the city. And the block, I think, is a good example of a mixed-use project we did in downtown Los Angeles. That was a very well located property, but a terribly neglected property. And it just simply was a super challenge to take it on, but somebody had to do it. And it was like a calling. Damn it, let's do something with that building, with that project. Let's make it right. And I don't know that we did it perfectly, but it's a lot better than it was.
Well, we certainly admire your courage on the projects you take on. We're all talking about problems. We're all living through a unique shift right now, socially, climatically, spatially, a shift that's brought about increasing challenges and yet also opportunities. So through the pandemic and the uncertain economic times, where are you predicting real estate development and the built environment is heading? And what words of wisdom could you share with the younger generation joining us this evening?
Thank you for just another tough question, to which there is no clear answer. The future is clearly uncertain. These days, when we talk to capital sources, the lenders and investors, you wonder what they're doing with their time, because they will tell you no hospitality, no retail, no office. It's pretty gloom and doom out there. But I do believe that's starting to change. Things are calming down a bit. The future remains uncertain. My advice to our employees, my advice to anybody in the industry is look for the opportunity. There are opportunities in markets like this. They may be financial, they may be a troubled property that needs help. It may be a lender that needs help, but there are opportunities out there in a market like this that inevitably surface. And before the virus, we and a lot of other developers were having a very difficult time finding opportunities in the marketplace. The pricing of real estate had gone berserk. But now there are opportunities out there for young entrepreneurs and talented architects. This could be a very good time.
Well, let's hope so. You know, Wayne, we really got to know each other well, serving on the Urban Land Institute LA District Council Advisory Board. It was you who enlisted me to become more involved and into the Land Use Leadership Committee to exercise my voice to ultimately follow your lead as chair of this vital real estate organization. What advice would you offer the architectural community with respect to seeking and assuming leadership positions beyond their comfort zone, where civic engagement intersects with design vision?
Well, I would encourage them in every way. I think the architectural profession is extraordinarily valuable to the future of our city. You all know that. The world needs to know more about it. And I think it would be very good, Ron, to do what you did, which is to step into a less comfortable environment, not one that is full of, is completely architects, but move into other parts of the world and learn something about development, about finance, And the Urban Land Institute was a good opportunity for everyone to do that. I would really, really encourage that. I know that architects have a lot in common. They like to be with one another. They like to award one another. And all of that is deserving. But I do honestly believe it will be in the best interest of architects to spread their wings a bit.
I found it very rewarding myself because, you know, how do you serve a client you don't know? And you get to know them when you spend time with them.
Right.
So you've done some other outreach kinds of things as well. Tell us a little more about your leadership and involvement in Homeboy Industries and how that has inspired your sense of community building.
Well, I've been aware of Homeboy Industries for some time, and I have been looking forward to the time when I would be able to spend some of my time working with nonprofit organizations that might need some real estate help and that I might be able to serve them. Homeboy Industries is now in its 32nd year. It has brought back so many lost souls. And all you have to do is hang around Homeboys for a day or two and listen to the stories, and you're immediately committed to doing whatever you can to help those young people turn their lives around. And they do indeed turn their lives around. So that was very inspiring to me. And I felt it was a place where we could probably do some good, and I hope we will. We're going to expand Homeboys physically. We're going to take Homeboys' success in bringing new life to those that have gone off the tracks, have been incarcerated, have been involved with drugs or alcohol, but want a new life and want to be better people than they had been in the past. And those stories that one hears of the saved lives is very inspiring, and that's what drives me to do whatever I can to help them.
I had only a small intersection myself with Homeboy Industries, and I just found it most interesting and wonderful that it was happening. So Wayne, I suppose everybody knows that you're a Bruin, and not just a Bruin, but you played football at UCLA. You're married to a Trojan, your wife Joanne, and like you, I have a crosstown marriage. My wife went to UCLA, and then she became a Trojan in her second degree. Anyway, we won't hold your student status, your Bruin status against you. Tell me what this award means to you, coming from the USC School of Architecture, Architectural Guild. And I understand you've long been involved in the school's mission and vision.
Yes, Ron, I have been, and I'm very proud of my affiliation with the school. I will say that my decision to marry a Trojan turned out to be a pretty good one. It's lasted for more than 50 years, so I guess I did the right thing. But going just for a moment beyond the architecture, the world of architecture, and maybe and the universities, what seems to me is that we are really blessed to live in a city that has two major universities. They're only 10 miles apart. And while they may compete on the football field, they have enormous resources to work together. And I think they're beginning to work together to make the city a better place. For years, I have wondered why our leaders haven't taken advantage of the talent at those two universities. I think and I hope that the universities at large, not just the School of Architecture, but the university at large, will work together at a time when this city needs as much help as we can get. So it's wonderful that we have two great universities. We should be proud of it. We should be thrilled that we have them.
Well, I can tell you that while I am an avid Trojan on the football field, when Johnny Wooden was coaching your basketball team, I was rooting for you guys.
Well, I probably saw you at a game or two.
Well, I think it's time to wrap up. Wayne, thank you so much for your wisdom, your candor, your friendship. You're so respected among your peers within the industry, within the community, and it's certainly clear why. We could spend a lot of time, more time than we always have already have over the years. But I think it's time that we end this evening, and I should probably hand this back to Dean Curry to announce our next interview. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you to Dean Curry and his marvelous staff for what they have done.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Wayne. It's great to hear the dialogue and the history that both of you have with our school and with the city. And I can assure you that our school is well positioned to do what we can to look to the future of Los Angeles and to partner across the city. And so it's very exciting, and we very much claim you as a Trojan nonetheless, because of the commitment and support that you provided for the school. So thank you. Next, in our double feature this evening, we'll hear from our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Art Danielian, founder of Danielian Associates. This is the highest honor of the USC School of Architecture and is presented in recognition of exemplary achievement in architecture and related fields, an excellent level of service and service leadership to the professional and/or academic community. Art has been a wonderful friend and his son John since I arrived at USC. Art has provided meaningful contributions to the low-income community, veterans, and the homeless. Significant achievements in the industry, both locally and globally, and we recognize his 50-plus year history in setting the gold standard for housing design, excellence, and innovation. It's an honor to have you with us this evening. It's an honor to be able to honor you this evening, and we want to begin with this short clip about Danielian Associates.
How do I describe 50 years of architecture? My philosophy has always been enjoy what you're doing. And I think 50 years goes by pretty quickly when you really enjoy what you're doing. So coming to work every day is like going to the candy factory for me. I think we've developed over the years a very family-oriented type of a company. It's not just knowing who's sitting next to you, but knowing the families behind each person. The office is a mature office. We've been at it now, as you know, for 50 years. And not too many offices can brag about that. We're licensed in 42 states. Have worked in at least 14 countries now. And we really enjoy the diversity of having different clients. Some of them we can't even understand, but we have to have a translator in order to make sure we get the criteria right. So anyway, all in all, things are looking pretty good. None of this could have happened without all the people who've been here to help us out. I need to give all the people who've ever worked for the company a lot of thanks and gratitude for their time and energy. Also to my wife and other people who have been patient enough to deal with this. So it's not a one-man show by any means. I'm not here because of me. It's because all of us working together to make something happen that's beautiful.
And now it gives me great pleasure to welcome back Ron Altoon, who will interview our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Art Danielian.
Okay. It says unable to start video. Start video. Unable. So the host has stopped me. Yes? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dean Curry, once again. Having initiated the USC Architectural Guild Distinguished Alumnus Award under my guild presidency, the School of Architecture Oldest Award, I feel strongly it's the responsibility of leadership to bring recognition to those in the profession and the community who have earned it. And I'm pleased today to share this conversation with Art Danielian, FAIA, founder and chairman of Danielian Associates. Art?
Hi, Ron, and thank you very much, Dean Curry and Ron, for your introductions. I greatly appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. First of all, getting back to that video you just saw, that was our 50th anniversary about in mid-2018 when I turned the reins over to my son, John, as being president. And we had a great event here, about 400 people here in the office. And the highlight was when 12 members of the USC marching band marched into our lobby unsuspectedly and really surprised everyone, including myself. Somehow my son John set that up very quietly, and it was great. They played all the fight songs that really brought up the spirit of the company too. But anyway, along with your questions, you can go ahead and start them, I guess.
Okay, thank you, John. Art, that's great to see you. Your firm is known for its history in residential design. You've practiced for over 50 years. As you said, you've delivered over 1 million housing units. That's rather remarkable, 1 million housing units, both single family and multifamily. From your decades of experience, what is it that an architect contributes that enables a house to become a home, particularly if that house is an apartment?
Well, that's a good question and a complex question at that, Ron. But first of all, while we design 1 million homes, we design one at a time, at least one plan at a time. And to do that, we have to follow some criteria that is really important. For instance, there's about 9 different market segments that we have to deal with, starting with singles, couples, young marrieds, young families, established families, but each one of these market segments have their own idiosyncrasies and expectations and what kind of features they like, room arrangements and room count. And so architects in residential work need to understand thoroughly what the likes and dislikes are of each of the segments so that when we design floor plans, each of them are really addressing the interest of that particular buyer. So nothing is arbitrary because no one plan fits all needs. So it becomes a pretty complex arrangement. Now we get that information from market research firms who do a thorough job of identifying where we should slot or tailor this particular project into the competition. But in addition to making sure each plan fits the needs of the particular market segments, we also make sure that each house has a soul and a spirit to it. And what I mean by that, that whether the house is small or large, it's really got to feel right and it's got to be exciting. And so we introduced a lot of psychological elements into the design of the floor plans to make sure that they are exciting. For instance, upon entry of the house, making sure it's very exciting as you walk through the house, the scale of the rooms are proper, the color and texture of the walls and surfaces are attractive, the furniture that might be put in there by the interior designer is appropriate, strong indoor-outdoor relationships, higher ceilings to introduce more light with higher windows and doors, and concern for the control of privacy, both visual and noise, because these are all aspects of enhancing the lifestyles of these homes. In addition to that, concern for security, especially today, and having a sense of separation between houses for single-family detached homes does create a stronger sense of place, as versus to an apartment where you have to walk maybe 300 feet to get to your car. And in a single-family house, you just open the door, you're in the garage, and all your belongings and your personal things are right there. And those kinds of things add the personality and the genuine interest. Additionally, on single-family homes, as you know, in the United States, about 65% of the people who live in single-family homes actually own them. And that sense of security and steadiness of the future is really an important concept to making everyone feel comfortable in that home. Does that kind of give you a feeling for what it takes to design a home that is specifically designed?
It sounds to me like you're really trying to move beyond the demographic profile of the homeowner, the renter, into a psychographic profile where you're understanding their needs and desires and what is fulfilling to them in terms of building their self-esteem.
Precisely.
So Art, you've been at the forefront of designing large-scale residential developments for many years. You're now practicing your craft overseas as well. This doesn't just happen. Did you have a vision for that? Or did you just duck your head down and put one foot in front of the other and trudge across the ocean?
I wish it was that simple, but I believe that our firm earned a reputation for being an innovative and high quality design firm first. And in doing so, it got a lot of ink and a lot of publicity. And that helped us show our wares to a broader market, starting with the national market. And then, of course, it moved into the international scene. But it's always not that easy. You have to do a lot of hard work in order to attract a wider audience. I've participated very heavily in representing the AIA at NHB conventions by providing design seminars at these conventions, primarily to builders as well as architects. I did that for 20 years with the help of Walt Richardson and Barry Burkins, who were very well-known architects in the nation at the time. And as doing that, we showed work done by other architects. We did have our own projects, but mostly by other architects across the nation in different regions with different styles and types of architecture. And as a result of that, we were educating the builders about how design plays a very important role about appealing to your marketplace. And I think that the comments that Wayne was making earlier was similar. You have to really pay attention to good design to make sure that it is attractive, functional, and economic. Now, these presentations were primarily at NHB conventions, the PCBC, with the Pacific Coast Builders Conference, as well as ULI, Urban Land Institute. And these are wonderful institutions. I know that you belong to all of these too, Ron. And it looks like Wayne belongs to them as well. But part of developing products over the years that become innovative and commonplace, our company has played a pretty important role along those lines. We were the pioneers of what we call the wide and shallow zero lot line home, which really corrected some mistakes, I think, that were being made for years in the large communities, whereby the standard lot was 45 by 90, established by civil engineers because it's a very efficient lot and costs the least to build. But we always felt that seeing a 45-foot wide lot with the garage door being 90% of the front elevation is not very attractive. It feels like driving down an alley, you know. So what we did was to widen the lot and shallow the lot, and having the same square footage, so we got the same density of the product. But on the other hand, improve the street scene immensely by now the garage door is maybe 30% of the site of the front elevation rather than 90%. So it costs maybe $5,000 of lot improvements, more, you know, infrastructure like sidewalks and curbs and streets. But on the other hand, the product yielded another $20,000 in sales price. So the builder says, hey, I can make more money doing this. Why not do more of them? So we did 26 of those projects here in Southern California. And then with the PR we got, it spread rapidly throughout the United States, and now it's commonplace. Also, the combo condos, where we combined townhomes with flats, thus creating stronger opportunities for tuck under parking and increasing the density without really changing the character of the building. And thirdly, the cluster concepts of homes, we're one of the pioneers who started that. And this came about as a result of all the suits that were being placed on builders for condominiums. And we were looking for ways of increasing density of homes to replace the condominium type of buildings. And And for 10 years, that was very popular. And also small lot clusters or small lot programs, which increases the density of single family detached homes, thus reducing the cost of the product by virtue of amortizing the land cost by a greater number of units. So these things have become commonplace nationally and internationally now. So we take a lot of pride in initiating those type of products. As you had mentioned earlier, we have worked since the 70s in some 44 states, not all at the same time, mind you, a few at a time, but we maintain our licenses and make ourselves very readily available to doing work in them. And then outside of the US, we've worked in 15 different countries now, which we take a lot of pride in. And again, not at one time, but a few at a time. We started in Mexico and in Canada, which were adjacent countries, but got into Europe with Euro Disneyland's communities. And also we got into Russia thanks to you. You introduced us to a client, remember? And we did a master plan near Moscow, 550 homes. And that was the first master plan community, residential community in Russia. So we took a lot of pride in that. And anyway, I think our international work continues to expand. We got involved in China by way of going to Japan first. The earthquake in Kobe in 1995 is what initiated it. We did some emergency housing for Japan to house the people who lost their homes in the earthquake. Remember that earthquake was 6.7 and it killed about 10,000 people altogether. And as a result of that, there was a lot of hardships and a lot of lessons learned. The preceding year that we had a Northridge earthquake, remember? And that was equal in magnitude on the Richter scale, but only killed 50 people. So the ordinances and building codes make a big difference in terms of the safety of buildings. Anyway, when we got into Japan, we also designed some market rate homes and won some awards, and that drew the attention of some Chinese developers who saw our products and traced us down and got us involved in doing homes in China. And one thing has led to the other, and we've been working in China now since 1996 and have done numerous projects. In fact, some of our largest projects are in China.
Okay. Well, we share some earthquake experience, Arthur, where we've both gone over to help people that have been severely hurt by earthquakes. It's very gratifying. Art, as ethnic Armenians, you and my roots in this country are relatively shallow compared to others whose ancestors preceded us to this newfound homeland. We share this country with countless other immigrant families, each bringing their own language, religion, cuisine, family structure, cultural values. As a diaspora tribe, we've learned to fit in regardless of what host country accommodates us. So tell me, what have your Armenian roots taught you that allow you to apply your skill sets to the regional communities you design and the diverse people you serve?
A good question. I'm not exactly sure the answer to that. I'm the son of immigrant parents. Both my parents were born in Armenia, and my parents fled to the U.S. Due to the genocides of the Armenians in 1915-1918 period. Both lost their parents, and my father, in addition, lost 5 siblings. My sister and I were both born in Pasadena. My father is a very hardworking individual who overcame many life's challenging events, trying to get to this country and raising money to bring his brothers and sisters. He was the youngest of 12, and he managed to bring 5 of them by working at Sears and Roebuck in Chicago selling carpets. But he always taught by example, and he bestowed the importance of working hard, getting a good education, especially in the field that you enjoy. Be perseverant, and make sure that your children also you extend the same values to your children so they can go on to do the same. surrounding yourself with good people and enjoy life in the process. And so I try to apply that to our company the best I can. You can't do all of the things, but I think we managed to do a few things right. I feel that our company, none of them speak Armenian. However, we are kind of a diverse company over here, and we, the last count, 9 different languages are spoken in our company, and this makes it very easy when we do international work because we always need a translator to go with us to these job sites, and as a result of that, we need to have a good translator that we can trust. But our company is really unique from other companies in that we have created a family type atmosphere or environment where everyone knows everyone, including their families. And we've done this primarily by having office-sponsored events, outings. For instance, we take the entire office and the families skiing the Mammoth once a year for a long weekend, where everyone gets to know each other, and that makes a big difference in the day-to-day experiences in the office, because everyone's always concerned about the children, and if someone's sick, someone else jumps in and helps them out with the work so they don't get behind. So I think that while the ethnic aspect is very important in building character and understanding what hard work's all about, I don't know if it really has affected our architecture.
So Arthur, where do you begin? How does context enter into your design equation, and how do you know when you got it right?
If the project sells, you know you got it right. But after spending 50 years in architectural practice and primarily surrounding production housing, and I think that looking at the projects we designed, the first thing we can do is make sure that the project fits the character of the neighborhood it's going to be in. So understanding the context of the neighborhoods is very important. And Google Earth helps us a lot because it gives us a chance to look horizontally as well as vertically at these communities and understanding what kind of designs are existing on either side of the project so we can blend in our work accordingly. And it's a master plan community, of course. The architect or the planner will have architectural guidelines, which establishes pretty much the architectural character of the community. And we enjoy designing master plan community, especially because it's gives us a chance to have a comprehensive feeling for the neighborhood by virtue of providing recreation facilities, parks, trail systems connecting the parks, and creating healthy environments that encourages a lot of walking and healthy activities. And most importantly, enhancing the lifestyles of people who choose to live there. I know that we're always constantly looking ways of fine-tuning our designs, and we are learning from each project that we do, and we pass on to the next project a little more information and knowledge that improves our designs as well as our methodology of processing it. I know when I was a student at USC, Frank Lloyd Wright was a speaker, and I think what he said was really, really interesting and gratifying. And he summed it up after he made his speech. Someone asked him which of his projects was his favorite. And his answer was, my next one. And I thought that was a terrific answer. So whenever someone asks me which of our projects are which one of our projects are my favorite, I always tell them our next one, because we have learned so much from the previous project.
Well, all right, from next one to next generation, your single family community development work has traditionally been, let's say, traditional in style, appealing to the larger composite of communities they serve. but now for 20 years, you've also been in practice with your son, John. And I see obvious movement towards embracing a contemporary voice. Has that always been your ambition?
Well, I kind of lucked out having a son who got interested in architecture for openers. And on top of that, he did go to USC and graduated in '95. And he's, other than a couple of years working for other architects in LA, he came here directly. By the way, there's that picture of the band in the background at our session, and the mayor and some of the city councilmen. But anyway, John has done a great job. You know, for a year and a half now, he's been president. He's doing a great job. He's bringing in some new and fresh talent to perpetuate the firm's future, and he understands the importance of good design and that architecture is a timeless element. But he also understands that the buyer's needs and interests are constantly changing. And the architect can't hang on to old ideas. You have to change with them. And so we try to stay a step ahead by looking at how people behave in their homes. We do a lot of interviewing of people who live in our homes to see how they're doing. We ask them what they like least and what they like most about their homes so we can always improve them. But most importantly, we're constantly keeping abreast with the needs of the changing needs of the buyer, both in interest and in functionality. And I think it's important to do that because as a result of doing that, you're being innovative and you're coming up with fresh ideas all the time. And that usually warrants or generates awards, and awards are published quite a bit. And we like that, of course, and that generates a lot of interest in the community. And that's one of the reasons that we've been successful, is that we're constantly at the leading edge of innovative product designs and master plans. And as you had mentioned earlier, we have now worked over 5,500 different residential communities, and over the 50 years plus. We designed over 1 million homes worldwide and have won over 750 awards in the past 50 years. So looking back, we are pretty proud of what we've accomplished, but I feel we're just starting. So I told my son, I ran the company for the first 50 years. It's your turn now to run for the next 50. He says, but Dad, I've already been working here 20 years. I said, okay, at least 30 more years, okay? So he agreed with that.
Well, Arthur, California currently has a shortage of over 3 to 4 million residential units, from low income to affordable to middle and high end housing. It's clear to me that elected officials have failed to fulfill that need, both at the state and local level, systemically. On the public side, what policy issues have caused this situation to be so prevalent? And what would you recommend they do to rectify this regrettable social situation?
Yeah, you're right, Ron. There's a huge shortage of homes, especially in California. 3 to 4 million is about right estimate. But each year in California, there's a demand for 200,000 homes, new homes, which include apartments. And the building industry is only capable of achieving about 50% of that. It's pretty pathetic. And it's primarily because of excessive conditions that are placed upon us by the state of California and each of the localities. And they're getting out of their hand in terms of their demands, especially with CEQA, which opens it up to public view, and you get all the NIMBYs looking at your project, and they all have their own attitudes about the fact that that project will cause too much traffic, and wife swappers are going to come in, and all the other bad things are going to happen as a result of higher densities. And so it's a constant battle, but the biggest problem we're having in California actually is land costs. Our land costs are so high, it's hard to bring the cost down without subsidies of some nature. So as time goes on, we are making some headway. We're educating decision makers and elected officials who actually approve these projects, but trying to convince them of having higher densities in these communities is a good way of reducing the cost, thus creating a greater expansion of the marketplace, with especially the young buyer who's really suffering the most.
So let's close with this question. So what advice would you give to the next generation of architecture students?
Oh, that's a fun one. Well, for current students and future students, considering a career in architecture, I strongly recommend and encourage you to reach out to your local architect and suggest or request a short interview dealing with your career. And he'll have a lot of great things to tell you about what it takes to become an architect and what the ups and downs are all about, and giving you advice about how to best prepare yourself. I did this in my early career. I selected Richard Neutra. Remember him?
Yep.
And I gained so much wisdom by talking to him for just 1 hour. However, the first thing he did was to shove his new book at me and says, read this book. And after you read it, come back and tell me what you've learned. And I did. But it was a great experience. Now, for those that are further along, that are now coming out of school and young practitioners, I would strongly encourage you to get involved with professional associations, such as not only the AIA, but the Home Builders Association if you're going into home building, or the ULI, as Wayne has suggested that he has and you have. Those are great organizations to do your networking and get to know people. And it's really important that you develop contacts early in your career and start learning about the fundamentals that makes our profession something that's really admired. So I would, as Wayne said, spread your wings and get to know people in the industry so that you can communicate with them and get to know them, because later on, very likely they'll become your clients, and that's important.
It's amazing what you can learn when you actually listen to people.
You're right. And don't pretend that when you graduate, you know it all. Life is just beginning, and you have to go to the state board examinations, which is another interesting experience. And you still won't know everything you need to know, but at least you have to work 8 years for an architect, but you get 5 years of credit for going to university, of course. But anyway, it takes a long time to learn everything about this business, and really the real challenge is that you never learn everything. Every day I learn something new.
Well, congratulations again, Art, most deserved, and we look forward to 50 more years. And now I'd like to turn it now over to Amy Pukaratana, who is the USC Architectural Guild President.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you to our honorees, Wayne Ratkovich, our Danielian, and our interviewer, Ron Altoon. Your collective works and passion inspire us all. And thank you, Dean Curry, for your partnership and support. I'm Amy Pukaratana, proud alumna of USC Architecture, president-elect of the USC Architectural Guild, and director at Hudson Pacific Properties. In the Guild's 61-year history as supporting partner of the school, these challenging times have provided profound opportunity, momentum, and energy for an exploration of new ways to enrich the student experience. The Guild pivoted to creating engaging online programming for students, including a virtual Explore site visit, a virtual career fair, and the largest mentorship class in recent history, helping to promote and virtually sustain social and emotional bonds. Together, we will culminate the celebration of our collective impact and this two-part spotlight series with a virtual 61st annual awards program to be hosted by journalist, author, and TV personality Lisa Ling, with special guest artist Amanda Williams. The event is the penultimate of when the industry comes together to salute its own. Please look for your invitation in the email this week. And we cannot thank our sponsors of the 61st Guild Awards enough. Please join me in acknowledging the generosity of these terrific companies and individual practitioners. I hope to see you all on December 8th for the Guild Awards. Please sign up, plan to attend, and financially support the event to the fullest extent possible. Thank you for joining us, and good evening.